Right now, nonprofit Big Brothers Big Sisters wants to inspire more volunteers, how they're using the NFL draft to their advantage.
It's what's best for kids, and that's why I stand by it.
And less than 3 weeks to the primary, we sit down one-on-one with DPI Superintendent Jill Underly as she seeks re-election.
How do you make a snow sculpture without any snow on the ground? I'm Cop Zarski in Lake Geneva with the answer.
And that's all ahead on News 3 Now at 6. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Franke.
And I'm Sarah Carlson. After plunging agencies, services, and nonprofits into confusion, the White House has rescinded the memo that called for a pause on all federal grants and loans.
Our Armand Rahman sat down with the Dane County Executive Melissa Agard moments after this latest development.
The Trump administration Wednesday walked back their plan to pause all federal grants and loans across the board after 2 days of confusion for Americans wondering about services like Medicaid, Social Security, and more. Even though the saga for now seems to have come to an end, Dane County Executive Melissa Agard says they're still planning for other curveballs in the form of White House memos.
This isn't going away. I anticipate that for years we're going to continue to see actions like this.
She says federal funds help pay for everything from public safety to child protective services to economic development and housing in the county. Her staff is working on developing a list of where federal money goes, but it's complicated because some comes through the state.
We are hitting refresh on our computers as fast as possible to make sure that we're as up to date with the information that's coming out of Washington, D.C. We're touching base with our congressional delegation, the people who we have elected to represent us in Washington, D.C., and making sure that we have clear lines of communication with one another, and making ourselves available to folks within our community.
The funding pause was set to go into effect at 4 p.m. Central Tuesday, but it was delayed until at least next Monday by a federal judge. Organizations like Wisconsin Head Start and Boys and Girls Clubs of Dane County depend heavily on federal funds and were contemplating which programs to limit or cut, at least temporarily. The White House says despite the confusion, they still plan to review all federal spending and make sure Trump's executive orders are implemented in all services and agencies.
Thank you, Armand. Administration officials say the freeze was to make sure spending aligned with the executive orders on climate change, transgender rights, and diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
Right now, Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan hosting a town hall. You're taking a live look inside the South Central Federation of Labor building on South Park Street in Madison. The town hall expected to focus on immigration and the recent situation involving the federal funding freeze. And coming up later tonight on News 3 Now at 10, political reporter Will Keneally will have more from this town hall and the community's reaction. People all over the country are feeling uncertain about the future of federal funding for their business, organization, or livelihood.
Our Merrill Hubbard is here to tell us what Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Dane County is doing to raise funds.
Big Brothers Big Sisters of Dane County is a nonprofit organization that empowers and educates children through mentorship. I spoke with leaders from this organization who say they're coming up with creative ways to raise money while federal funding is in flux.
We don't want to stop doing that work regardless of what happens, at a higher level with our national government.
Sandy Morales is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Dane County. The organization is partnering with the NFL Inspire Change for their Big Draft campaign.
Knowing that the NFL draft is coming to Green Bay this spring, we wanted to take advantage of their recruitment efforts to also put together our own recruitment.
The goal is to raise funds and inspire more volunteers to join their efforts.
So fundraising is essential for us.
Tracy Anderson is the community partnership manager and a big sister in the program.
I have a little myself, and she's 7, and it's just been an amazing experience.
Tracy and her little met last year, right before her little's birthday.
Her parents had reached out to me and they invited me to her birthday party. And I was kind of surprised because we had only been out once, and I guess she really wanted me to go.
Tracy says she didn't know how special that day was going to be for her and her little.
I went to meet at the restaurant and she was standing by the window waiting for me and ran. I cry every time I tell this story. And ran to me when I came to the door. And it meant so much to me. I didn't realize how much she wanted me at her birthday.
Since then, Tracy and her little have only grown closer.
It's really important to take that time to be present and to stop to see the things that are important. And I feel like she helps me do that.
To foster more relationships like Tracy and her little, Big Brothers Big Sisters will be launching their Big Draft campaign this February with events going on till April.
What a wonderful story. Thank you, Meryl. To learn more about the Big Brothers Big Sisters campaign, you can visit channel3000.com.
The man charged with killing Ingrid Valverde Ponce will have a trial. 23-year-old Gerson Blasnoy is charged with first-degree homicide, giving false information about a missing person and hiding a corpse. Those charges stem from the death of the 27-year-old Valverde Ponce. She was missing earlier in the month. Within days, police had arrested Blasnoy and found her body. Online court records don't say when he'll be back in court. He's currently in the Dane County jail, held on an $800,000 cash bond. Not bad out there today, even warmer tomorrow. A check of your first one forecast. Here's Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington. Alex.
Eric, we have record warmth on the way to southern Wisconsin. Wait till I show you some of these temperatures that we're going to be experiencing over the course of the next couple of days. 50s on Thursday. I won't give the magic number away quite yet in just a moment. We're also tracking some light precipitation chances for Friday and then also for the weekend, and we'll talk more about that in Maine weather. Gusty winds again today, but not as gusty as what we saw on Monday and Tuesday, between 25 and 30 miles per hour today. But the combination of the wind gusts and low humidity and mild temperatures, that fire risk is a bit on the elevated side. Now, we have clear skies out here right now. We're down to 35 in Madison, 37 in Lone Rock, and 37 in Janesville in Dane County. A lot of 37s. There's a 36 in McFarland and a 36 in Stoughton as well. Planning the rest of our evening, clear skies at 10 when you join us again. Still seeing temperatures above normal for the high temperature. Normal high is 27 degrees. And look at these temperatures that we're expecting on Thursday, 53. Coming up in Maine weather, I'll let you know when our last record high and what it was for Thursday is. And we may be looking at record highs again on Sunday. And those precipitation chances, let's use Future Track to look at our chances for rain and snow. That's coming up.
Alex, thank you. A new report finds students in the U.S. are still struggling to bounce back after the pandemic, especially when it comes to math and reading. In 2024, the majority of fourth graders nationwide failed to meet the threshold of being at or above proficiency for either subject. Now, the same is true for eighth graders compared to 2022. Average reading scores declined for both grades. The average math score increased for fourth graders. The average math score for eighth graders did not change. Now, here in Wisconsin, eighth grade math is among the top in the nation. Fourth graders were consistent with the national average. There were no significant declines for reading scores. One striking point of the data, Wisconsin has the widest black to white opportunity gap.
Now, 3 candidates are in the race to be the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's top official. The state superintendent oversees public education across the state.
Our Ellie LaLiberte is profiling the candidates so you know what the future of Wisconsin education could look like.
The 3 candidates are education consultant Brittany Kinzer, Sauk Prairie Superintendent Jeff Wright, and incumbent Jill Underly. I sat down with Underly to hear what she says a second term would bring.
It's what's best for kids, and that's why I stand by it.
Testing standards are at the forefront of the race to become Wisconsin's next superintendent.
So whenever you make changes to the test, you have to change the grading scale.
In 2024, Jill Underly's administration made the move to change the benchmark for the state's forward exam.
But if we're going to spend the time that we are spending on assessing kids, let's make that assessment mean something, and let's be able to interpret the results fairly.
The controversial move lowers the score at which students meet expectations. It also changed how students' progress is labeled. Underly claims the change is more accurate than the previously used national standards.
We needed to measure on our assessment what kids were actually learning.
But critics say this skews data, making some schools appear to be doing better on paper than in reality.
So governor, who has been critical of that cut scores decision, and the legislature who's now proposing something to kind of go against that, how do you plan to work with those 2 entities?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something, right? There's always going to be disagreements, but there's always going to be agreements, and there's always going to be room for compromise.
Underly says she would look to prioritize teacher retention and recruitment.
If we want to go from good to great, we really need to fund our schools.
She's also against school choice.
Parents should have choice, but I'm against vouchers and I'm against funding private schools with public dollars.
Underly saying if elected to a second term, she'd continue to highlight public education.
Because of all the chaos right now at the federal government, is just making sure that we have, somebody who's going to stand up for public schools.
The field narrows to 2 candidates after the February 18th election. Voters make a final decision on April 1st.
Ellie, thank you. And she continues her candidate profiles this Friday, sitting down with Sauk Prairie School District Superintendent Jeff Wright. She also spoke with education consultant Brittany Kinzer last week. For more on that conversation, you can visit channel3000.com. And coming up on News 3 Now at 6, making snow sculptures without the snow.
Somehow, after the break, we head out to Lake Geneva to see how the unseasonable warm temperatures are affecting one of the town's winter traditions.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
Well, there's some snow. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to take a live look now at the Riviera Plaza in Lake Geneva. That's where the 30th annual Winterfest is taking place, bringing in people from across the country.
It looks very bright there, even though there isn't snow on the ground. It's also where we find our Kyle Pozorski showing us how the snow sculptures are being made without any snow on the ground.
The ground in Lake Geneva may be brown, but for a few short days, there's snow here, and a lot of it. Blocks 10 feet high of compacted snow shipped into town for America's Snow Sculpting Invitational.
They're all winners. These are all titans that are here.
Tony Parham is one of those titans, coming from Vermont to sculpt a block titled Minor Emergency.
It's a coal miner that decided to take a throw ride down a big drop and not necessarily knowing what road lies ahead for him.
Tony with his team will be facing some tough competition. This year, 15 teams are bringing their skills to the Riviera Plaza and Flatiron Park. But it won't be easy for anyone. Some unseasonably warm weather has come to southern Wisconsin, with 50s expected for Thursday.
We're going to try and get as much done today as we can, and then tomorrow during the day it's going to be 52 or 54.
Josh Jacobowski is one of the teams representing Wisconsin. He says the warm weather can certainly have an impact, but he's learned several ways to mitigate any potential melting. These include putting tarps on the side with the most detail and leaving the sides with the least detail exposed, using the sun to their benefit.
During the day, we would cover the whole sculpture up and just go and sleep, or do some work from our rooms and stuff like that.
Work will continue on the sculptures through Saturday. In Lake Geneva, Kyle Pozorski, News 3 Now.
Kyle, thank you. Now, tomorrow, Winterfest welcomes visitors to check out the downtown ice sculpture walk with close to 40 sculptures outside downtown shops there. And still ahead, how you can help people in need stay warm this winter.
Plus, the Federal Reserve makes its first interest rate announcement of 2025, why those looking for relief on those interest payments will have to wait a bit longer.
And when could we possibly see some rain or snow? Alex is back. He'll have the answer after a short break.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
The Federal Reserve says it's holding steady on its benchmark rate amid lingering concerns about inflation. The Fed's slow and steady approach is at odds with President Trump's wishes to drop rates immediately, but U.S. inflation is still above the Fed's target rate of 2%. With the labor market sturdy and customers still spending, Greg McBride, chief financial analyst for Bankrate, says the independent Fed doesn't see economic urgency for lower rates. That means borrowers looking for more relief on interest rates will have to wait.
If you're carrying high-cost debt like credit cards or even home equity lines of credit, many of which are in double-digit interest rate territory, you need to stay on offense, be aggressive about paying down that debt, because you can't sit back and wait for lower interest rates to come along.
Now, for the Fed to make another rate cut, officials will have to see inflation continue to move closer to that 2% target. The government's latest reading from December came in at 2.9%, with energy and food prices elevating that overall number.
It wasn't if they are in danger of freezing to death or hypothermia. They were well on their way. So that's the kind of power that the donor has.
This is important. Next Wednesday, News 3 Now is partnering with Energy Services Incorporated for Day of Warmth. It's a telethon from 4 to 6:30. We'll be taking your donations in a phone bank during News 3 Now newscasts. You'll also be able to donate all day online to the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund. That fund helps thousands of households including the elderly, veterans, and working families with children who often have to choose between eating or heating. Please join us next Wednesday to share the warmth in our community.
Always great to be a part of that. We could see record warmth tomorrow. Alex rejoined us. Complete look at the forecast. Alex, what is the record tomorrow?
Record for tomorrow is 47, set back in 1974. Our forecast, 53 degrees, low 50s across much of southern Wisconsin will likely shatter those records. And then fast forward to Sunday, yet another period of unseasonably mild temperatures. Record high set back in 2020 of 51. We're going to be really close to that on Sunday. 48 degrees. Right now, we've got 35 in Madison, 37 down 14 in Cross Plains into the south. On 12-14 in Oregon, we've got a 36 degrees. Crossed the rest of this evening, we'll see those temperatures dipping down to 30 at 10 o'clock when you join us. I've been saying this all evening. 30 is still 3 degrees above our normal high temperature for this time of year. And that's at 10 o'clock at night. Across the rest of the southern Wisconsin, we got 28 up in Camp Douglas, 38 in Boscoville, 37 right now in Janesville. Mind you, these temperatures right now are still 10 degrees above our normal high temperatures. Tonight, 26 in Madison, 28 in Janesville, 29 in Lone Rock. These are very mild lows when our normal lows are right around 11. So unseasonably unprecedented warm temperatures for this time of year. And here are those record highs tomorrow. 53 in Lone Rock, 53 in Prairie du Chien. We'll do a triad of that here in Madison at 53, upper 40s to the lower. We could have some mid 50s in a couple of areas as well. Gusty winds, we've had those every single day this week. Right now, those winds have eased up, and that's certainly making conditions feel a little bit better out on the patio. Now, as we get into Thursday, those winds are going to turn to the southwest, ushering in those warmer temperatures with wind gusts getting in that 15 to 25 mile per hour range. Those winds will ease on up as we get into Thursday evening, but pick back up as we go into Friday, but coming in from the north and northeast at about 20 miles per hour out ahead of a weather system that I said that I'd talk about in just a moment here. Now, with the windy conditions, the dry fuels, meaning dry vegetation, we don't have any snowpack out there, mild temperatures and low humidity values, we do have an elevated fire danger across southern Wisconsin. I was saying earlier at the 5 o'clock newscast, much of the weather system for Friday, likely Madison and points to south, north of Madison for a Saturday weather system, and then some clearing late on Sunday. Here's how that pans out with future track. Rain shower activity from Mineral Point to Madison over towards Watertown at 6 o'clock Friday morning. Could mix in with just a couple of wet snowflakes, but most of this stays from I-94 and points off towards the south. As we go into Saturday, some snow showers building in by afternoon. A lot of this stays to the north of Madison, Juneau, Adams, Marquette, Green Lake counties could see a mix of rain and snow showers Saturday night going on into Sunday morning. Then we have Groundhog's Day and that another potential for record high temperatures on Sunday as well, before temperatures eventually go back down to where they should be for early February values.
And coming up in sports, on the road again for the Badgers. Why did Greg Gard, road or home? It doesn't matter where his team is playing. That's next on News 3 Now. Wisconsin men's basketball is in the middle of a stretch where they have to be road warriors. Last week, they were out on the West Coast for 2 games, then flew back for 1 at the Kohl Center. Now they're out on the East Coast for tonight's matchup against Maryland. Sounds like a lot of frequent flyer miles for the Badgers, but Greg Gard isn't too concerned about all this travel time his team has been doing.
We're flying around on a private chartered plane. We'll have some nice box meals for us, I'm sure, Tuesday afternoon when we fly to Maryland, stay in a good hotel. There's much more difficult things in life that you could be doing than changing time zones, playing basketball. So I don't make a big deal out of it because I don't think it's a big deal. Go play where they want us to play next. All right, we'll be there.
Well, and speaking of Badger men's basketball, be sure to check out this week's Wisconsin Huddle with Carter Gilmore. Show airs at 6:30 on Friday right here on News 3 Now. It was another good weekend for the Badger men's hockey team. Wisconsin won Game 1 and then closed out the series with a tie against Michigan. But it was how they did it that it might have left Mike Hastings' heart a little uneasy. In both games, the Badgers found themselves down 2 goals. And both times, they rallied. It's a spot they don't want to be in, but knowing that they can come back no matter the score is a good thing to have in their back pocket.
They're the ones that pulled us out of that fire. Different guys at different times. I do think it shows the belief they have in each other.
Yeah, this team doesn't get rattled very easily, and we don't want to start down. And I think this weekend, with how our practices have been, where our first 5-10 minutes of practice are we want to be really good, and that'll translate to Friday and Saturday, and hopefully we can get up by 1 or 2 instead of down 1 or 2.
Badger men taking on Maryland right now. We'll have highlights of that game at 10.
All right, Zach, thank you. Alex, final check of the forecast.
Final check. Record-breaking warmth expected on Thursday. Maybe a rain or snow shower Madison and Point South Friday morning. Could see some snow showers north of Madison on Saturday. Sunday, Groundhog's Day. My full Groundhog's Day forecast coming up at 10 o'clock. But beyond that day, those temperatures will eventually get down to where they should be for February values. A couple pictures to show. Thanks, Becky from Rio, sending us the starry skies here. All Becky did is just scan the QR code from the couch or the chair that Becky was sitting in, and that links us right up to channel3000.com/weather so we can show you these photos. Little steam coming off the lake there, Token Creek, I should say, corrected. Randy, thank you so much for sending us that picture. And again, just scan the QR codes and then we can talk about the weather, but we can also show the weather. I'd like to see the people's record-breaking warmth pictures for tomorrow. That'd be nice.
You get the sense there's going to be a lot of people outdoors, and like you said earlier, shorts, probably. Shorts.
Everyone in the teenage level of these, for sure.
Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 6.
See you at 10 o'clock.